All right, man. We in the barbershop, man, with the Hall of Famer, man, and a highly opinionated, highly factual historian, Leon Muhammad, man. What's up, man? How you feeling?
Hey, man, it's good. It's good coming on after my great dear friend of 50 years, the great Robert Aaron. I said, God, he get Bob and don't call me. but the call came just on time. I deeply appreciate it, Brother Fred.
Thank you. And what's your take on Bob Aaron? What happened the last couple of days?
Well, let me say this, in all respect due to Bob. I call him the snake. You know I love him. And Bob's a businessman. He said, in his opinion, he's right and he could be wrong. I'm not going to bid. Let them bid, and I get a $800,000. And then wherever Thriller do the fight, they got to bring Bob and his crew in. Right. So if they do the fight and Bob decided to do the fight in New York, he ain't got to fly. I mean, so Bob's saving money and making money. He's a businessman. He's our Jewish brother. He's a businessman. Been doing this for 55 years. He know how this thing goes. See, the problem is that Thriller all of a sudden they want to become boxing promoters because they made a good hit with two legendary former old age champions. They made a good hit because of the name. Really, Roy didn't sold it, Mike sold it. See, controversy sell everything. Just like liquor, alcohol, and sex, it sells. And they had two controversy fighters, and the public went for it. Bob, a lot of people said it wasn't a good move, but he was his fighter. His fighter getting paid more than Bob wanted to give up at this time for that particular opponent. So Bob and Lou DiBella getting free money. Fred, you can't blame them.
Yeah. Do you think it was some collusion on Lou DiBella and Thriller and everyone and all parties involved, excluding Bob Aaron?
Well, you got to understand. Lou's a Guinea. That's my brother Lou DiBella. Lou's a Guinea. Lou hustling. Lou flat-foot hustling now because he ain't got that connection out there with our brother by the way of Cleveland, the great Mr. Haymon. So Lou flat-foot hustling. He gonna grab whatever he can grab. He's a businessman, and plus he's a Guinea. So he flat-foot hustling. He can grab what he can grab.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't a smart move on the manager part. She had you and I've been the manager. Hey, Bob, what you got on the table for Teofimo? Give me $500,000. I'm gonna step aside, right? Put it in right. I'm next up to the plate. So you get a free $5. But the manager wasn't thinking, and I don't blame the manager. I blame the IBF for making this guy number one. Who did this guy fight to be number one other than Mickey Bay? Mickey Bay wasn't number one. So how this guy become number one? I'm thinking Hanky Panky going Bob and Brother Fred barbershop. In my opinion, the boy shouldn't be number one. Check his record. He shouldn't be number one. I don't know what my dear friend Darryl Peoples is doing over there. Because the guy only put him in a position, but when you got a guy that's not well known, you milk it, and milk it. Take all the step aside you can, then throw him in for all the marbles. That's my opinion. And Bob was right. I'm not giving my guy this kind of money that he deserves. I'm going to give your guy eagerly to my guy. I don't blame Bob.
So what do you think?
And a lot of people said Bob was wrong for not being for his fighter, but Bob is a cold-hearted businessman. Got to remember, Bob got the networks. Can they get the networks? Whoever they got, is ESPN going to work with them? They're going to work with them because Bob getting paid. Had Bob wasn't getting nothing, they weren't going to work with Thriller. So it all works out itself for him and Lou. Lou go downtown and get the blessings, then it all worked out. But if they porting them and telling people not satisfied, I don't know. I haven't spoke to them. That's my opinion. And when you look at it, my slogan, you all know for the years, it's never personal, Brother Fred. And to all your people that's tuning into the barbershop Fred, it's never personal. It's always business.
Right.
So when we start making the person, like you moved on and got them cuffs off you with the credentials and all this, trying to satisfy everybody, now you make your own moves.
Yes.
I love what you and Brother Sway doing. Y'all making your own moves. And that's a blessing from itself. But in a nutshell, it worked out. We don't know if Twitter know how to promote a fight and sell a fight, the last fight they did, they had two superstars from yesteryear, and they was able to get over on it. But you got a rising star, and you got a nobody. Would it sell? We don't know. Because we don't know if they know how to promote a fight. Nobody promotes a fight like Bob Arum. See, Bob is different. See, Bob is a corporate promoter. DK was a street promoter. See, Bob got a bunch of lawyers around him. Don said, give me all the thieves, hustler, pimps, and hoes, because that's where I come from. So that's why DK was so successful in his arena, and Bob's so successful in his arena. They both Hall of Fame promoters. Now, where Bob let this fight slip out his hand, Don and Cassie Duba, a main event, they never would have let it slip. They'd have worked with both fighters and kept it in their house where they controlled the shots. So now Bob is getting paid, but he's not controlling the venue or the fight. If they want to take it to Germany, Bob got to go. Teofimo got to go because Bob lost. So when you're not in the driver's seat, you can't call the shots.
So what do you think will happen moving forward based off of the history of Bob Arum and Teofimo Lopez for the next 3.5 years?
Well, like Bob made a statement, if y'all want it that bad, buy me out. But you know, and I'm going to say this, going on record saying it, I'm going to say this because I don't care what they think about me. I'm a Muslim. I'll stand on what is right. Teofimo, easygoing guy, but top rank hate the father because the father dogged him out. Said, y'all thought we were going to lose to Lomachenko. I told you on the 16th fight, we would beat the great Lomachenko, and we did it. And the way they dogged that boy's family out, the kid, you know, he's young, he go along with it, they're going to get greater later. But the father understands that they don't like him, they don't love him, but he got what they need. He's the only star over there. Lomachenko's done. He's 30-something years old. He's still around the gate. But you can't put a high hope because you got to put a hope on this kid that beat him. See, the kid let his hand talk for itself. His father talked, but you know what I'm saying? It's not a good relationship. I'm telling you that, and I'll tell Bob, I know it's not there. But, you know, sometimes we put ourselves in a position because of afraid and we can't get out of it. They don't want to be over there, but they don't know how to leave under the Muhammad Ali Act. They don't know how to leave. See, they can always leave. What did Mike Tyson do? He left Bill Cayton after Jimmy Jacobs died. But what the judge say? You can leave, but you got to pay Bill Cayton. Don got to pay big fights. You can leave, but you still have to pay him. But you can leave. Don't say you can't leave because the Muhammad Ali Act is in law that you can leave. You can't stop you from fighting, but you got to pay.
Right. So where is Lou DiBella in all this? Because he burnt his Al Haymon bridge, taking Deontay Wilder over to the zone, and now I know Bob Arum is thinking like, man, this motherfucker cut me, man.
Now, first of all, Lou DiBella is a guinea, once again. Lou DiBella got tired. Lou DiBella was over at HBO for 12 years under Seth Abraham, and Lou DiBella got the right number to call to say, hey, take care of Lou. Y'all owe us. Take care of Lou. Lou is with us. That's the difference. See, Al Haymon is the difference than Al Haymon's connection to Lou. Al Haymon has no connection. He has a hedge fund. If that hedge fund dried up and all of them get indicted, where's Al Haymon going? That leaves Miss Brown and her husband in the cold. Sam gonna be all right because Sam come out the street. Sam come from the muck. It's a different when you come from the muck. When you can take your picture, when you take your fish and go feed your family, that's a different. But then Tom Brown will be all right because he's a white boy and he's married to the Dan Goosen's daughter or sister. You know what I'm saying? So you look at it, Lou gonna be all right. And you gotta remember, and Lou in this position, Lou's the promoter of the fighter. That's fighting Teofimo Lopez. Lou is the promoter on record. See, they try to shut Lou out. You can't shut this guinea out. He's been in this thing too long.
Got it.
Plus, you see Lee, you see, Brother Fred, how much money Lou bid. Lou went downtown and got the money. He know that I know that he went downtown and got it.
What's downtown?
You know what downtown means, Fred. You come from the corner.
Spell it for him, man. That's not, this interview's for everybody, not for me.
He went downtown to Little Italy and got that money.
Little Italy.
Lou know that I know what he know. Lou know that I know that Lou know I was with Miles Lansky on the end.
Oh man.
That's why I was talking about Miles Lansky. Miles Lansky was my guy.
Really?
That was my man. I was his young buck. Nothing moved and shake in Philadelphia in the hood that I didn't know about. Because they had to deal with the nation. And I was Jeremiah's business captain. The Honorable the late Minister Jeremiah Shaheed Muslim Shabazz, one of the top ministers for the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad at that time.
My co-host.
See, when you look,
okay. No, I'm sorry. Continue.
When you look at it, Brother Fred, it's about making moves. See, what they do that we don't do, we don't hug each other whether we like each other or not. See, I learned from Miles, you ain't got to like a guy to get in bed with him and do business with him as long as the deal is right and the deal is honorable. You ain't got to like a guy. It's never personal. This is big business. See, the fight business, the fight game is worse than the dope business and the whole business. It's a cold business, bro. Because I've been in this thing 53 years. Come out the muck of this. I was with them all. And my main man was the late Butch Lewis. That was my guy. So when you look at it, everybody is playing moves. See, all them guys playing checkers. Bob Aaron playing chess. He know how this thing goes. Not putting Bob on. Sure, Bob screwed me in New Orleans in 1978, but we move on. I'm still here, 75 years old. Both of my parents still here, so I've been blessed by Almighty God Allah. And I understand the business of this thing. See, we can look at the fights, Brother Fred, and to your listeners, but if you don't know the game, and you can look at the game, but you got to see why fights are made. People saying, why am I making the fist fight with the boy down there in Dallas, Texas? I mean, for what reason? I don't understand. Why should I make this fight with Crawford? If I lose, I'm out. See, Don always told me this. If you got the heavyweight champion of the world, people are going to talk to you whether they like you or not, because you got something they want to be a part of, and you got something they want to put on your show with the heavyweight champion to build them up. So Don was smart. He manipulated the whole heavyweight division for a lot of years. So when Al had that prize crown, that heavyweight title, he was in the driver's seat. You got nothing now. You got a bunch of drunks. You got a bunch of fighters beating up their girlfriends and all that crazy stuff. A bunch of fighters turning over cars. Come on, man. Am is smart. You don't see this guy getting in a lot of trouble.
Where does I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Go ahead. Where do we go from here?
Al Haymon. Al Haymon, because I know you're very opinionated on Al Haymon, and albeit some may be factual. Where's Al Haymon's play and his threshold on the landscape of boxing right now?
Al Haymon has a toehold, but Al Haymon don't have a good toehold. See, let me explain something to you, Fred. You're a businessman. A lot of your listeners are business people. If these networks would enforce the morality contract, Haymon would be out of business, because he got the most craziest fighters in the history of the sport. I thought I had two in Witherspoon and Mitch Green, but he got worse than them guys. You got one guy beating up his girlfriend in front of, beat up his baby mother in front of his girlfriend. You got one rich brother out there in Vegas who beat up his girlfriend and went to jail. And then you got Broner throwing up money and making our young brothers and sisters that are trying to make a living and working in Kmart. He's throwing $100 bills in their face. Come on, man. What kind of organizations you running? See, bro, I don't look at the product. I look at the conduct. I look at all that. The old timers, they didn't do that. The Bobby Chacon, the Camacho was a nut. But you didn't see Witherspoon. You didn't see Larry Holmes and Michael Spinks and them throwing up money in people's face, making them feel bad, bro. I mean, look at his guys' conduct, bro. popping balls in the champagne, posting them in the club. Come on, who does that? But a moron. He got a bunch of morons and decent fighters, but no great fighters. When you got a fighter that dogged out one of the greatest trainers in history, one of the greatest amateurs of history, and you don't speak up and tell him to back off it, I can't fault Shelly. I fought Shelly too. Shelly's my guy. But when you got a guy, as great as Mark Whelan is, a human being and a good guy, you let your former heavyweight champ of the world dog him, then he making credit, but I'm going back home to claim my throne. Bro, you ain't Muhammad Ali. What you going to Africa for? You don't out of here with that mess. You see what I'm saying? Look at the guys he got. Look at the conduct in and out of the ring. That's what I judge the fight on. The Robinsons do that, the Bazilios, the Marcianos, the Robinsons, the Smoking Joe Frazier, them guys didn't act like that. See, when you got guys, you can have a bunch of fighters and a bunch of good fighters, but if the character is bad, it don't mean nothing, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel, Brother Fred. I address you on that. You tell me what you think about a fighter. He can be good, but if his conduct and his manners no good, did that mean anything? I ain't that smart. You tell me what it means.
I mean,
I'm listening.
Cost versus reward. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like it depends. You know, in the business sector, it depends on how risky the man is. You know, and I wanted you to explain this. The co-host DB is here. DB Leon Muhammad, DB. Oh, y'all both nation members too, by the way.
Yes, assalamu alaikum, brother Leon.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Huh?
Assalamu alaikum, brother Leon.
Yes, sir.
Sports morality. What does that mean? Sports morality.
The sports morality contract that Seth Abraham had when he ran HBO before he passed, and when Jay Logan was alive at Showtime, and Bob Lee had it over at the IBF, as well as Gilberto Mendoza, but Mauricio didn't have it. The old man Mauricio Suleiman didn't have it. The fighter has to conduct himself outside of the ring as well as in the ring.
Got that. So
basically, and I'll give you a prime example. A lot of people don't know, and I send my condolences out to the Spinks family. That's one of the reasons why Leon Spinks was stripped of the WBC title, because Mauricio felt, you get locked up, you keep falling out, you're in the club, and a lot of people were thinking it was basically because he didn't fight Ken Norton. That's why the WBC stripped him, but that wasn't right. The morality contract plays a part. Most networks don't enforce them, but they have them in place.
Gotcha.
They have them in place. HBO had it in place for a lot of years when Seth Abraham was there. When Kerry Davis came, he knew it was there, but he didn't enforce it. A lot of these companies have them, but they don't enforce them. In the old days, they enforced them. But now, when you got fighters doing this and doing that, as long as most networks don't force it, because back then the fighters weren't doing too much crazy stuff. They was putting behind in the seat. That's why Camacho got rid of a lot of stuff. The late Hector Camacho, the former champ of the world, because he packed arenas across the board. See, when you got a mega fighter, going back to Ray, Tommy, Marvin, and Roberto, and Ali, you didn't have that problem because they were gentlemen in all fashion. You didn't see guys, and I'm glad our brothers down there in Texas, the Chalos straighten their act up. They're good young brothers. You know that the scripture says, if you ain't taught no better, you won't do no better.
Right. So
the morality contracts makes you do what you're supposed to do in the ring, in the gym, and walking around when you're preparing for a fight. You have to conduct yourself as a man, as a great human being in this society we live in the world of North America, as Minister Farrakhan would say.
DB?
Yeah, so we know that Frank Warren has been around for a long time. Don King, Bob. We know that Oscar's had a successful boxing career. But with Top Rank, PBC, Matchroom, Golden Boy, Main Events, Queensberry, all these different promotions, how would you rank these how would you rank these companies in terms of their current business models?
Well, you got to see one thing, brother DB. You got to understand that Bob, Frankie, my dear friend Frank Warren, and Kathy Dubin never changed. Kathy may not be the star that she was, like her late father-in-law and her husband Danny, but Kathy is holding on because she has that still have that mom and pop mentality. DK is at the end of the road. He paid his dues. Bob is getting in the road, but Bob is more visible because Bob had a squad that laid in it. And as the things got with DK, you know, after Mama Henrietta passed, everybody started scattering because everybody thought it was time for him to go and give it to Carl. Don didn't think that Carl could handle it. He knew Carl had the street muscle being with 25 and temple number 12. And so I think that Kathy, Bob, and Frankie in a better position than anybody else because one thing you got to understand, Bob got his own money. He ain't got no hedge fund money. Bob got his own money. And Frankie Warren got all the Britain money. And Kathy got all the money they made because she had the Tomorrow champion and the 84 team. So you have to look at it. Oscar made a good run. Oscar trying to do what with Ryan Garcia, what Frankie Warren did with Ricky Hack by fighting all the former champions that was on the way out the door. And what Oscar trying to do with Ryan Garcia is not there. So Oscar may stand up because he got that Mexican pipeline. But if he don't get something else because he lost the great Canelo doing his own thing. Canelo said, "Why give you some money when I can turn around and go leave you and win in court and make my own deal with Frankie Warren? He make my own deal with Eddie and his own and what Oscar was getting, Canelo got that himself last night in Florida, with 15,000 people showed up. So when you look at it, I think that Kathy and Frank Warren is in a better position along with Bob. And Frankie's gonna always be around the door because he got that Britain money. You're always gonna be around the door. I don't know if Eddie and John, the boy over there that run his own, I don't know if they can last because he don't have the squad to run it. So he got Eric Botcher, he got this guy and that guy, he got Kevin's son over there. What they know about boxing? They've been around the game, but they don't know the game. You're only good as your team, DB. Brother Fred in the listening, you're only good as your team. And Am had the same team for 40, 50 years. Bruce Trampman, all them guys been with Bob forever. After me and Butch left in 1978, Bruce Trampman been there since 1978. After I left Top Rank.
So in a decade from now, so in a decade from now, who's going to have continued success out of which one of these companies? And what's more important, or what's the most important thing to having continued success? Is it relationships? Is it good matchups in the ring? Is it having the most fighters or having the most talented fighters?
See, first of all, you have to see Am's matchmakers are very good. They're seasoned veterans. Bruce Trampman and Brad Goodman, who don't get his just dues. Bruce been around a long time. Bruce was assistant trainer under Angelo Dundee with Ali and with Ray and all. Bruce understand how this thing goes. Plus, Bruce was at the Garden, him and Brad Goodman. It was at the Garden with John Conlon, all the old timers at the Garden. So they understand the business. Not knocking Tom Brown or none of them guys, but they don't know like Am's crew know because they've been around this thing long as some of them guys been alive. Kathy's going to be around because Kathy is a lawyer. She's very smart. She don't want to be big. She just want to stay around the gate. You know, as long as she can get one of them little casinos, build her fighters and put them on Am, fight Am guy or fight Lou guy for the world title. That's all that Kathy wants. All Kathy say, all I want is a roast beef sandwich. Rest of them can have the caviar in the States. I just want a roast beef sandwich. And I understand Kathy's method. It's been her method. That the Doers won the first bid for Tom and Ray, number 1, September 16, 1981 on the Thursday night of Caesar's Palace. So Kathy and them had the same mom and pop mentality, operation mentality. And that's why Kathy's still around the gate. And so I think that 10 years from now, that if Kathy retire, I think her daughter Nicole and Lil Duba will still be running the mom and pop operation, because that's their mentality. They ain't trying to get into the bright lights. They'll go to the lights. They'll go to the dance, but they ain't trying to control the dance. And I don't think Oscar going to be around in 10 years unless he can get that Mexican pipeline locked in. The way Irene Eaton had it back in the day at the Olympia out there in California. Bobby Chacon, Alberto Davalos, Lil Red Angel Lopez, and all them guys. See, also you don't have that breed of fighters. You may have some coming out the next game, but as of now, he don't have that pipeline. So you understand? Bob got all these young guys, but if Bob's still around at 100, he may not be in the business. His grandson never got it. Todd won't get it, but his grandson to get it. So I'm focused more that Top Rank will still be around going into their 65th year in 10 years. And I just don't know. I think who will be around. The three that I think will be around is Kathy, Frank, Warren, and Top Rank. That's my pick. I could be wrong, but that's my pick.
Yeah, I hear you. There's a lot of hate for Don King, obviously by the fighters for all of the wrongdoings that he's done, but there's been some disdain for Bob from fighters and now fans. So the direct question is Bob Arum good for boxing in 2021, or is Bob Arum bad for boxing in 2021?
Bob Arum has been good for boxing for 55 years. Bob's a businessman. And I'm going to get back to Bob. I got to touch on my boss, DK. That's my guy for life. Carl King, I spoke with him last night. Me and Carl talked last night about my book. We get that on the end. But let me say this to you. People say Don King did this, Don King did that. We never know what Don did. I was there. See, when fighters sue you and never win, so that means you ain't did nothing wrong. See, fighters talk about Don did this, Don did that, but fighters don't tell radio personalities like you and Fred and y'all listeners, when the fighters don't say, well, I went and got 200,000. My mother want a new fur coat. My girl want a new Mercedes. When Don put them and get his money back when they get big, it's just right now, take one of your nephews a fighter and he signed with Leon Muhammad Sports Production. I'll put all this money in to build him up. When he get to all the marbles, I got a right under the Muhammad Ali Act to get my money back. So we talk about what Don did, but we don't know what he did. We don't know what the fighter signed, or we know what the fighter is saying. But only one fighter went in the court and beat Don, and that was Terry Noss. If you check the history and check the court records, it's available to the public. I'm not saying this because Don is my boss, and I've been with him since he come home in 1971. But I'm saying it because it's the truth. Fighters say a lot of things, but they ain't saying, all of them say Don's a good guy when they're hollering loud, he got championship of the world. Larry said he's a snake, but Larry said, I'm a rich because of that snake. Larry home tell you that day in and day out. Say he might be a snake, but I'm rich today because of that snake. I don't own a federal jailhouse in Easton if it wasn't for fighting for DK. So look at all these fighters that had all this money that fought for DK. When the money's gone, they talk bad about DK. I'm not saying that DK didn't make no moves. Everybody make moves. But is the moves correct? I mean, you take my position with Don, and when I was co-manager with Tim Witherspoon. Now, we came home from Bruno. I'm putting this out there because it's public knowledge. We came home with 90,000. We got $1.6 million, Bruno. But Timmy borrowed 600,000. So the man just got his money back. He didn't take nothing, even though Timmy won in court for the contract, but he didn't win the case, the separate case from the Bruno fight. See what I'm saying? So guys, fighters are like hoes, brother. Fighters sign with you today. I had a fighter sign with us. Talking about the late Greg Page. He signed with Butch Lewis for 200,000. And 3 hours later, Don gave him 500,000. He brought Butch 250 back and said, I'm going with Don. What Butch going to say? I got a free 50,000 for 3 hours. See what I'm saying? Fighters is like hoes, man. They do this and do that. You take the history of all the contact that my dear friend down in Florida, the former champion of the world, Tony Tucker, did. I mean, it speaks for itself. Fighters do a lot of crazy stuff, and then when it's all said and done, they bring the promoter. You got to blame yourself. You got to own your own bad dealing and your own bad doing. You can't blame the promoter. You want to stay in these clubs and partying and pop champagne when the money's gone. Oh, the promoter did this, the promoter did that, the manager did this, the manager did that. Come on, man. It ain't personal. You got to handle your own business. Somebody don't bring no lawyer. If you say don't bring a lawyer, then don't go.
I've never heard you speak on Floyd Mayweather. What's your opinion if you can encapsulate his whole career?
One of the greatest businessmen in history and one of the worst fighters in history. One of the greatest business, my little brother, by the way of Flint, Michigan, one of the great businessmen in boxing history, other than Muhammad Ali. Very smart, handles business. But what separates him, his morality, is not conduct, not what I think it should be done. But I understand the circumstance, what he grew up in. I understand both of them. I understand the old man and I understand mama. But so I understand because I come from that product. But when you come from something, you should be able to do better. But he's a great businessman. I don't think he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. I disagree when he said he was greater than Robinson and Ali. You know, that's his opinion. But I know history. So, but as far as one of the greatest businessmen in boxing history, yes, he's the top of my list. As a fighter, I give him as in 7 of all time.
Why isn't he a top 5 pound for pound on your list?
Well, he'd never be pound for pound because he didn't have 200 fights. So he can't be pound. Ray Robinson, the greatest that ever did it. Not saying this because I was with Ray. I'm saying it because it is the truth. He's not pound for pound. I mean, when you look at what he had in front of him compared to what Ray Robinson, Tommy Mazzilio, Jake LaMonica, he couldn't stand a chance against them guys. See what I'm saying? Even the guys out there with y'all, the Bobby Chacones, I mean the little Red Indian Lopez, and I mean the guys that was going out when he coming in. A lot of them guys he ducked. Pete was still around. He didn't fight Sweet Pete. He was still around. I mean, this chop over Rosario was still around. Camacho was shot, but he was still around. Ray was on. Tommy and them, they was about going. But to be great, you got to fight greatness. I think the only great fight that he had was the boy that died on the motorcycle. What's his name out there in California?
Corrales.
The boy that,
Corrales.
Yeah, Corrales. I think that's one of his best fights. I mean, had he fought Canelo during the time he fought McGregor, he'd got beat. And that's my opinion, and not my opinion. I'm saying this. I believe Canelo would have beat him today, not yesterday, because he wasn't seasoned like he is now. You got to remember, a lot of guys that Ricky hadn't fought coming up, Floyd had the chance to fight them old fighters going out. The boy that just died, Frankie the surgeon, Randall, was going out. Pete was still around. A lot of guys was still, the fighters in that division was still around. He fought Arturo Gotti when Arturo Gotti he thought Arturo Gotti was washed up. Gotti came back and had 3 great wars with
Mickey Ward.
What is the 2 brothers out there? Gotti came back for the brink of defeat and beat both of them. The 2 brothers out there in California, Ruiz,
Gabriel Ruiz, and
his brother.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Floyd was coming in. He had a chance to fight them guys on the way out. And he fought Gotti when everybody thought Gotti was washed up, but Gotti rallied back and had 3 great wars and made history against Mickey Ward. So I mean, timing is everything, man. And Floyd, I'm not knocking Floyd. I'm always saying he's one of the greatest men in history, greatest businessman in boxing history, next to Ali. And Ray Robinson.
Got that.
And I'll make Ali 1 and Floyd 2 and Robinson 3 as business people. And everybody knows I'm a Ray Robinson guy. But that's what I think. And you know, not knocking Floyd. You know, he made some mistakes. You know, he's doing what he do. What he do? You can't do no better if you ain't taught no better. That's the scripture. The Quran, the Hadith, and the Quran, and the Bible.
So, Brother Leon, if Floyd Mayweather is top 2 or 3 businessmen of all time, then wouldn't that make Al Haymon also one of the best businessmen, or if not if he brokered these deals and advised and counseled Floyd?
Let me say something to you. Al Haymon didn't nothing. Al Haymon was there fronting, but Warren Buffett and all of them really pulling the strings, but I mean,
who?
First of all,
who do you
Warren
say?
Buffett and all them corporate jokers on Wall Street really pulling the string. Al just delivering the message. Al just doing the strategy, but they delivering the message. He just fronting because they don't want to be involved. But let me tell you something. His big homie, he don't call his big homie. See, first of all, Al's a genius as a music guy. I love him and Tom Joyner. They're good music guys. But for this game here, he's not qualified for the game. You got a bunch of fighters. You got a bunch of dumping car flitters and a bunch of women beaters. So, bro, I don't count that. You can be good at one thing if you can't incorporate everything into what you're doing for your fighters. Then the one good thing you're doing, the other stuff they're doing bad is outweighing the good. The good, the bad, the good is sometimes we outweigh the bad, sometimes the bad outweigh the good. That's why I think they should enforce that morality contract, and you see a lot of these fighters straighten up. Because, bro, when that thing went down in Florida, I went to Shakur's house and got in his butt. His mother and grandfather didn't say nothing. I said, sit down, boy. I'm gonna straighten you out. He said, oh, okay, Unc. I said, man, if I ever hear that again, we got a problem, bro. JP looked at me, shake his head, and said, oh, man, straighten him out. Because, see, I understand. Shakur, first of all, you're a Muslim. Your conduct should be better. If you're a Christian, your conduct should be in what you believe in. See, these guys, man, and they just let these fighters do what they want to do. All they care about is the numbers. They don't care about making sure fighters got a good education and putting money away for a rainy day. And when it's all said and done, ain't like our crazy brother down there in Tuscaloosa. He nutted in a fruitcake.
You got to follow up, DB? I'm going to change subjects.
No, but I want to switch reels on something if you don't have anything about that.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, Brother Leon, how common is it for fighters to take a dive? And if so, who sets that up and who's involved? The managers, the promoters, the sanctioning bodies?
Well, first of all, ain't no dives in this day and time. Because you get locked up. They watching. It ain't like the old days when the fight game was mob control. It's different than the days of Miles Lancey and Frankie Kaba, known as Mr. Gray. It's different than John Conlon and them old timers at the old garden on 8th Avenue. It's a different arena. That is not doing today. I mean, it's doing today, but it's doing more corporate way. Like people say, the mob out of boxing. You're crazy. They're always around the game, but they just are not around the game hands on. They'll put a manager with you, and the manager robbing you, and they're robbing the manager. Them Denny's always around. But they're doing the more corporate way that they beat you with the pencil nowadays. You take it like most fighters, most ball players got Italian and Jewish agents. See, they get their kickback from the agents. They ain't messing with the fighters or ball players, because all these ball players come from the hood and know about them little game boys that they're going to protect them. So they don't want that smoke from a street standpoint, so they get their buddies on Wall Street to pat you in the head with the pencil. So as far as the day taking dives a day, it's not really happening. It's happening, but it's happening more on the corporate. When I say corporate, you got a guy, he don't have training. That's just like taking a dive. You don't put your full body in training and get ready for the fight. That's just like taking a dive.
So are there any fights that, I guess, let me kind of change the wording there. Are any fights set up? Is there more than meets the eye in boxing?
Well, I'm going to use Floyd Mayweather and DK for a minute, if you and Fred don't mind.
No, take your time.
Now, you take Floyd Mayweather. In his history, he never fought a Don King fighter. He said, I can't beat the old man in the organizations all in one night. You take it, he never, for a whole career, he never fought a Don King fighter. Going into Atlantic City to fight the late Arturo Gotti, my dear brother, rest in peace, champ. He took a chance because he thought them Guineas, he knew if Gotti stand up, he thought them Guineas was going to take it. So it's there, but it's not being like it was where you can see it like in the old days. It's there, and I know it's there. You and your listeners know it's there, but it's not being exercised in broad daylight like it was in the old days.
All right.